yourself up.
So,
Yo.
no, it's good.
It's the crib.
Yeah.
Holy. That is insane. This is where my guy cooks. How many cameras do you have? Me and Jamie now are gonna do some editing. Oh, me and Jamie. Jamie's gonna run through some of the editing for the actual Calibrate launch video, which is gonna be sick in nature, X gym, X track. And I'll just be providing like color, a bit of guidance on where we want to go with it, but he's got a lot of creative freedom as well, just because this man, as you can tell, absolutely cooks. I mean, his setup is nuts. Imagine just editing right here. This is your workspace. Look behind you at night and you've got the Harbour Bridge. So yeah, as I showed before, all the kit. This guy's an absolute wizard, so we're gonna get to it.
Let's go.
We're trying to sort of finish up part one, or phase one of this shoot right now. We got so much content and it's pretty crazy having to like go through hours worth of content and distill it down into like pretty much 0.5 to 1 second clips. Like Hi Jay. Okay, well this is obviously not a video I really wanted to make, but I am pretty badly injured, not gonna lie. I've London Marathon in about 2.5 weeks time, and I haven't run for the past 4 or 5 days. I have some sort of tendinopathy, tendonitis, essentially just running down the front of my shin, down the bottom here. There's kind of like a sheath which runs over the tendons, holds them tight. And yeah, it's pretty cooked. So I did a 140 kilometer week, and I probably shouldn't have, to be honest. You know, I had this ego thing in my head where I got to Saturday, I hit this 38K long run at a 4-minute pace. Everything felt great. I felt good. I woke up the next day and I saw my Strava chart and I'm like, oh, I only have to hit a 13K run and I'll get that 140K. It's just something about that number I really wanted in my head. And it was just such an ego thing. Like, just because you can do something, it doesn't necessarily mean you should. I felt absolutely fine all week, felt fine on that 13K run. And I woke up in the middle of the night on Sunday and I just had this shearing pain in the front of my foot. And I just thought, oh no, I've done something, I've injured myself. And what do you know? I have injured myself. So I went to the physio on Monday and I got it checked. And I'll chuck up on the screen essentially what the diagnosis was, what he said, but it's one of those injuries where it's kind of like acute. It doesn't happen because of some sort of pattern, some sort of rolled ankle, something like that. What happens is over time, you just wear and tearing down that sheath, the tendon lining. And at some point it just gives. It gives up on you. And, you know, I'd gone through this whole block. I'll chuck my Strava chart up. 100K, 110K, back down to 106, up to 120. Really smart with my programming. And then just this 1 week, I thought peak week, I could do it. I could push the limits. So I guess it's a really good lesson, right? I could sit here and just be really frustrated, and of course I am. Like, I've done so much work towards this goal, and suddenly not being able to run and not knowing if I will be able to run with 2.5 weeks till the actual marathon, putting in all this prep, all this work. It's really frustrating, but you can't control everything in life, and that's just a reality, right? You can control some things. So I can't control the fact that my foot is injured, that my calf is, or this part here, sort of the insertion between the calf and the lower foot. I can't control the fact that it just doesn't work, and it's extremely painful to the point where the physio wants to put me in a boot, wants to completely immobilize it. I've been doing sort of stationary bike, and that's just inflaming it more, making it worse. I can't control that, but there are things I can control, and I'm gonna get into that later in the video. But yeah, I guess I kind of want to chat about my mindset now, like how things have shifted. The goal for the marathon is still 250, sub 250. Why not? Go for it regardless. Now, if I can't run in 2 weeks' time, then sure, I'll have to reassess it. Like, that's just the reality of the situation. It's a really valuable lesson. This is my first ever marathon block, my first ever marathon full stop. I've done 50Ks, I've run a marathon distance before, but I've never done an actual race. So this is all part of the process. It's all part of the learning. I also don't want to sit here and act as if an injury for a marathon is the worst thing in the world. There is so much happening in the world, so much negativity, so much anxiety, people literally in war zones losing family members, and I don't mean to get too sentimental, but the truth is, if the worst thing that's clouding my mind at the moment is an injury because I have the privilege to run London Marathon, then I've got a pretty good outlook on life, and I don't think it's really within me to sit here and just be negative and cloud my mind with all these negative thoughts just because I can't do something I'm very passionate about. That happens. That's life. Like, there are so many opportunities in life that will come, that will go. There are so many setbacks, and I guess what separates people from achieving their goals long-term, their long-term vision, their roadmap, is being able to zoom out and have that perspective and realize that sure, these things happen in the short term, but over the long run, you'll come back stronger, you'll learn more, and life's all about learning, failing, iterating, coming back stronger. So that's kind of my mental framework right now. I say that, but at the same time, like, I am very disappointed. I've gone from running pretty much every day of the week to suddenly no running. So yeah, there's been some changes to my diet, some changes to other things, which again, I'll run through in a second. But I figured I'd just update you guys. So what the physio said is essentially, you've got this overuse injury, there's nothing we can really do. The elliptical is out of play. The stationary bike is meant to be out of play, but of course, I just have this burning sensation within me that I always need to be doing something. So stupidly, I went to the gym and hopped on the bike, and it's probably just made it worse. So I really am doing my best to just sit and chill. And I think that's the hardest thing for me, is just being able to sit and chill. I know it sounds ridiculous, but you get into a routine and a rhythm, and suddenly those things are just like habitual to you. Get into a ritual, a rhythm, a routine, and getting up, going for that run, seeing the sun rise, like that is kind of part of my day. That's what sets up my day. Now, what does this mean actually going into the race? What am I going to do about the actual injury itself? Well, it's a great question, and I'd be lying if I told you I knew. So I can't control my ankle. That's the truth of the matter. What I can control, like I said, is my emotions, my diet, how I sort of facilitate training now. I can work more on my upper body, my strength, my core. I can do some isometrics potentially once that's sort of calmed down a bit. I can focus on supplementation, anti-inflammatories, icing, wrapping it up with some sort of Voltaren or gel. There are plenty of things I can keep doing, but let's put training aside for a second. Understand why we do these things we love. Things like training, like running, like the gym. They build mental fortitude that you can apply to other parts of life. They build discipline, they build grit, determination, all these things, and you can take that and apply that to different parts. So while yes, I can't work on my running and my aerobic base and my threshold work and all these different things, I can be working on other things. My relationships, I've got more time away from running. I can spend more time with friends. I can work on my law studies, really lock in on essays, on things like that. I can lock in on CALIBRATE. I've got all this freed up time now to really spend on the business, make sure everything is set in place for launch, for distribution. On top of that, I can work on, my actual job. I can apply myself more there, be more present. I'm not so tired from all the training and the running. So another thing I want to say as well, if anyone else has dealt with an injury or is dealing with an injury and is really down mentally, you really just have to take that long-term vision like I spoke about, zooming out, having perspective. Maybe I don't toe up at London and get a sub-3 marathon. That would be world breaking. It honestly would. I'd be really disappointed. But you know what that means? It means next race, I have more energy, more vigor, more grit, more determination to toe up and do something even crazier. I go into the next build, I know what I've done wrong, I've learned a lesson, and I just go even harder. So yeah, I'm sorry if that was a bit of a rant, but a bit of an injury update. I'm gonna keep you guys posted. I originally thought within sort of 4 to 5 days, I'd be back to maybe doing some chill runs, some recovery runs. Truth is, my mom had to go pick me up from the bus stop because I couldn't even walk. So that's just the reality of the situation right now. But hey, the world is one big classroom and I'm here to learn. So we'll move forward, we'll grow stronger from this, and who knows, I could be back out running next week, feel absolutely fine. You really just don't know. So yeah, that's kind of an update on that front. Now I'm going to talk to you about what I'm controlling in my life that I can control regardless of the injury. So this is what I meant when I spoke about controlling the controllables. Got some uni CALIBRATE work going on right now, low inflammation foods, foot in the ice bath, and I want to run through kind of how my approach to nutrition has changed just slightly a little bit at the moment. As you can tell, right here we've got a ton going on. I've got the cruciferous vegetables, like your brock, your greens, super low inflammation. Some people don't tolerate them as well. I tolerate them really well, so that's going to be great for speeding up the recovery process, recovery adaptation. Kimchi, again, very low inflammation food, great for your gut health. That's going to interact with the rest of your body. And then on top of that, I've got things like plenty of beef. And in fact, we've gone for quite fatty cuts of beef to get plenty of leucine, plenty of fats, collagen, help that repair. Cottage cheese as well for a bit of fat. Sweet potato for complex carbs. This is just one part of the equation that I can control, right? Like, I can't help the fact that I can't run, but I can make sure I'm doing everything in my power to do with nutrition, recovery, speed up that process, give the body everything it needs. Next, about supplements, I'll show you what I'll eat for dinner later in a similar vein, which will be low inflammation. And yeah, this is great. Also, kimchi is the most goated thing ever. So get some kimchi, plenty of beef and spinach, plenty of sweet potato, pickles on there too, even more fermentation on top of that, just for taste. So yeah, in a world where you can't run, lock in on diet. Yet another thing I can control is my approach to supplementation, how I can try and be effective as possible, or as effective as possible to speed up my recovery adaptation. So this is another thing I'm focusing on pretty heavily actually, is anti-inflammation. Obviously, you want a little bit of inflammation because that's your body's natural response to help repair tendons and ligaments. But at the same time, I'm taking things like fish oil right here, high dose omega-3. I've got ashwagandha to lower my cortisol, help with sleep. Sleep is literally the number one thing for rest and recovery, so you want to be dialed there. Obviously, zinc for just general immune health. That's kind of best taken at night as well with a meal, just because zinc is pretty heavy on the gut. And there are some benefits to do with sleep as well. It's been studied. And then on top of this is my night cocktail, which I absolutely swear by. In here, I've got a mix of obviously this beetroot powder, which is extremely high in antioxidants, which are very anti-inflammatory. On top of that, it's also got magnesium glycinate at 300 to 400 milligrams in powder form, and glycine 10 grams. That sounds pretty wild. 10 grams of glycine is a lot, but glycine is imperative for collagen repair, imperative for things like aiding in protein synthesis, muscle and tendon repair. And so I'm just trying to tap into every avenue possible. Like, realistically, why not just really try and dial this in? Even the sub 1% benefits compound over time. And so I'm really just giving my body every single nutrient it could possibly want because I want to get back to running. Like, I want to get this injury out of the way. And that tastes pretty brutal. The actual magnesium glycinate I use, I'll chuck it up on screen, tastes really good. Pillar Performance. Glycine's also really sweet, but beetroot itself, pretty brutal. So yeah, this is a little bit of a night stack. Okay, so while I can't do any running or really any aerobic work at all on the bike, which I'll get into, I'm working on strength. So I'll start with some sort of a heavier leg press, usually 4 sets, 8 reps for the top sets, and then I get into single leg movements. Running's a single leg sport, so I like to mimic that in a lot of the movements. Also great for your posterior chain. I go to about 90 degrees on these movements. There's no point pushing it and like risking potential injury. I do a lot of single leg stuff. You'll see with the hamstring as well. It's all single leg movements, just trying to mimic that running activity and also just keeping strain relatively low so I can recover pretty easily. So I'll do about 4 sets again here, 8 to 10 reps, and then I'll do a drop set on the last, pushing it pretty close to failure. So that's what I did. I dropped the pin, and then I'll go to failure on this set. I actually miss all the lower body strength sessions when I wasn't running a ton because you just get a better pump. You have so much more energy, so much more strength output. And then I move on to more posterior chain works. So these reverse hyperextensions are really good for your lower back, your glutes, your hamstrings. I'll do about 4 sets of 12 to 15 reps, relatively light. Again, not risking injury at the moment. And then I'll do a drop set on the last to failure, and then I hop over on the sus machines, do some glute stuff, some adductors, abductors. Well, I honestly really wanted to hop on the bike and do a spin and get my heart rate up, but I was on there for 2 minutes and my ankle is just completely flaring up, pretty swollen. You can't really tell from this 0.5, but I mean, it is quite a bit more swollen. So I think the smart thing is just to stop, reassess. I mean, what's one 30-minute bike? What difference is that going to make in the grand scheme of things? I don't think it's a smart option to keep going and pushing, so just rested up for the rest of the day. I got work later, so I'll have to head into work and be on my feet a bit, and yeah, it's pretty frustrating. Like, honestly, it's really, really frustrating, but it's all just part of the process like I spoke about, and it'd be stupid to make a wrong decision now and push back the recovery process when the marathon is the goal. But yeah, gonna head home, show what I'm eating. Again, it's going to be pretty similar to last night, super anti-inflammatory, and we can do that instead. Okay, well, this is pretty much deja vu of last night. I've got my foot currently in the ice bath, just getting some recovery adaptation, making sure I can heal that ankle. Obviously cold exposure is going to help with reducing that inflammation, and then on top of that, the meal I'm eating is very similar to what I had last night, with plenty of broccoli for anti-inflammation, kimchi again for gut health, anti-inflammation, high fat content beef for leucine, protein, help with muscle tendon repair. I've got sweet potato as well for complex carbs, just general energy, plenty of salt, plenty of pepper, some other seasonings like cumin, turmeric, which is also meant to be anti-inflam. But yeah, this is just part of it, right? Like I said, I can control my diet. I want to be really meticulous about the things I'm putting in, making sure I'm not putting any processed foods that could disrupt my inflammation response, or it would have any negative effect. But the update is the injury is kind of getting worse. There's nothing I can do about it, but it's pretty disappointing. Hopefully next video I'm back to running. It's all smiles and it's enjoyable. So I'm sorry there's no running in this video. I'm sorry if it's a bit of a drag on just about my injury and it's a little bit negative, but that's just the reality of the situation right now. I'm also going to do a massive update on Calibrate in the next video, so that'll be good too. And yeah, hope everyone's well, keen for next vid, and hope you enjoyed the little D&M chat. A little bit less activity in this one, more so just kind of being real.